Alright, what's going on, guys? So a big new update for Elden Ring Nightreign was just officially confirmed. Now that the rotation of Everdark Sovereigns for the mainline bosses have come to a conclusion. One big thing that everybody was wondering about the post-launch support for Elden Ring Nightreign is what else are we going to get? What new features are they going to add? How will this game continue to thrive until the DLC comes out sometime later this year? Now, surprise, surprise, the new mode Deep of Night has been officially confirmed by Bandai Namco and the official FromSoftware channels, and it's actually coming out very soon. Now, if you're not somebody that keeps up with literally everything going on, then this might be news to you. But yeah, we kind of already knew about this. There's literally people that have been playing it for the past month. But like I said, now it is official. It's coming out pretty soon, and we actually have a lot of new details about it because it's going to work a little bit different than everybody initially thought. But we're going to go through all the official news today, and then we're going to go through all the unofficial news, do a full breakdown of what Deep of Night is, what it looks like, how it plays, what you get for beating it, and the big new twist that we weren't expecting. But of course, as we get started today, if you want to stay up to date on all things Elden Ring Nightreign, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and now let's get into it. Alright, so let's take a minute and pretend like we didn't know about this and go over what Deep of Night is. And we're going to start out by looking at the official channels. Now on Thursday, Bandai Namco released this press release. And yes, I know I'm a little bit late covering this, but we're going to break it down a lot more than just what came out. So the official post says, Elden Ring Nightreign, a high difficulty expedition mode, Deep of Night, has appeared. Deep of Night will begin on Thursday, September 11th. Deep of Night is a high difficulty challenge mode designed for seasoned players who have navigated through the night many times. About Deep of Night. In Deep of Night, the enemies that appear are stronger than usual. Additionally, you cannot specify the target Night Lord, and ongoing terrain changes are not reflected. Special items such as Depth's relics, exclusive to Deep of Night, and weapons with multiple additional but also detrimental effects will appear. Furthermore, the difficulty increases the deeper you descend. The ratings will fluctuate based on wins and losses, affecting the depth. Deep of Night is a high difficulty mode that provides a thrilling and challenging adventure. We encourage you to try and see if you can surpass Depth 3. And then there's a note down here that's extremely interesting. Depths 4 to 5 will feature an endless battle for those seeking even greater thrills. Okay, so let's break that down a little bit. The official post here actually does do a pretty good job at explaining it, but if that's all you read, you're not really going to understand what this mode is. Essentially, how Deep of Night functions is as a ranked hard mode. So when you play Deep of Night specifically, you're going to have a rating assigned to your character. This is going to go, as it states, up and down, depending on whether you win or lose. And as your rating goes up, when you hit a certain number, this will put you in a new depth. There are currently 5 depths. So when you play, obviously you start at 0. And for example, when your rating goes up to say 1000, that will raise you into depth 2, increasing the difficulty of the mode. So again, kind of serving like, say, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond that you'd see in other ranked multiplayer games. Now, when you raise your depth, say you go from 1 to 2, you can't D-rank, so you can't get demoted back down to depth 1. But the climb from depth 2 to depth 3 is a little bit higher, and as you go from depth 1, 2, and 3, it's going to function the same, although with the difficulty raising each time. Now, what's very interesting here, and what's new that nobody knew before this, was that depth 4 and 5 are going to function as an endless mode, but we currently don't have any details on how that exactly is going to play. But your average Deep of Night run is not going to function the same as a normal run. The way difficulty works here is pretty interesting, so let me break down exactly what a Deep of Night run looks like. Now, when you load into Deep of Night, obviously you cannot choose the Night Lord that you want to hunt. It will be random, as will the Shifting Earth event. But immediately one thing sets Deep of Night apart from a standard run significantly, and that is that in Deep of Night, to compensate for the increased difficulty, you will now have 6 relic slots, 3 of which are your standard relics that you use in normal runs, and then 3 of the slots will be specifically for the new Depths relic that they mentioned in the post. And I'll give you some examples of some Depths relics. Depths relics are very powerful, but also have some adverse effects. So you might have one like HP restoration upon thrusting counterattack +1, and then something like dormant power helps discover great axes, and something like improved gravitational sorcery. But then you will also have an adverse effect like taking damage causes madness buildup, which makes for a pretty interesting dynamic where, say you're playing Raider and you really like that Great Axe dormant power, but then you have something that actively negatively affects your playstyle of being a tank in that adverse madness buildup buildup. So that's one way that Deep of Night puts a twist on things and makes the difficulty increase manifest in various ways. But in the run itself, again, depths 1 through 3 are essentially going to function the same, and that you have your 2 knights and then a Night Lord at the end. But in this mode, you'll encounter red enemies. These are very beefed, much harder versions of standard enemies in the game, and you can see a few of these in the official image that was posted. They've got this sort of darker look with this red light and tendrils coming off of them, and they will have a lot more health and do a lot more damage, with a modifier that of course increases as you increase your depth. You might even see ones that are faster and can buff their weapons with elements, stuff like that, and these are not easy. Now if you do manage to overcome these red enemies, bosses specifically that are glowing red can drop red rewards. These are red rarity items. These will have at least 1 red rarity weapon or item in them that will have additional effects, 2 buffs and 1 debuff. So for example, you find a red rarity greatsword that has 2 buffs of 8% physical damage increase, continuous HP recovery, but then have a debuff like constant poison buildup at full HP. Now effectively, red rarity weapons are equivalent to purples, but like the relics, this presents an interesting dichotomy, where you gotta think about your situation. Are those buffs worth the debuff? Can you find one where you can take advantage of those buffs and the debuff won't really affect you? Say for example something like decreased FP when you're playing as Raider or Wilder. Now at the first few depths, that's really about all that's different that we know of so far. It does seem like, so that when you get to depth 2 or 3, you have a chance to encounter the Everdark Sovereigns at the end of your run, but that's not yet confirmed. Now if it doesn't seem that different, it's really not at the early stages, but these red enemies are very, very tough, and it's going to create some very difficult situations where you can't just go out and fight everything the way you can in a normal run. Say you have your optimized route on Noclateo, for example, and you fight Loretta or the Flying Dragon. What happens in a Deep of Night run if now Loretta and that dragon are red versions? Well, now it's going to take 2 or even 3 times as long to kill them. You're probably going to die, and you might find yourself down a level or 2, and you may not even get rewards that were worth your time. So in addition to being harder in the sake of more health and damage for the enemies, this also throws a pretty big wrench into your normal optimized route. And that might actually be the hardest part of a Deep of Night run. Not so much the bosses themselves, but that your momentum can very easily be broken. And in Nightreign, that can make or break your run. But that's how it's going to function for depths 1 through 3. Depths 4 and 5, as they say, will be in endless mode. Now what exactly does that mean? Like I said, we don't know. Does that mean after you beat the Night Lord, a run just restarts? Do you fight a Night Lord at all, or is it just infinite days and nights? Does the seed change every day? These are things that I'm wondering about this endless mode, because a normal run takes about 45 minutes. That's pretty long. So another question I have is, in this endless mode, what exactly quantifies a win or lose? What raises your rating, and what kind of run decreases it? Because let's say for example you have 3 hours to dedicate to an endless run. Well, what if you don't die but just simply have to quit for time's sake? Did you maybe earn enough score to increase your rating? Does it get harder as more time goes on? These are just things I'm wondering. That's going to be interesting to see how they choose to implement it. But yeah, unfortunately we don't have details on the endless mode just yet. Hopefully they keep that a secret until the 11th, but we'll just have to wait and see on that. But that's everything we know about Deep of Night so far. Finally, it's been officially confirmed. Again, like I said, some people have been playing this for the last month. Kinda ridiculous that it got leaked so early. But I'm very excited about this. This is the kind of thing that Elden Ring Nightreign needs, to just constantly have to grind in the background. I love the Everdark Sovereigns, but after you kill them once or twice, you start to kinda ask, well, what's the point? But a ranked mode that truly is randomized gives you a reason to keep playing over and over again and grind that next level, get that number higher. And again, if you're like me, somebody that's already put a ton of hours into this game, that's exactly the kind of thing to keep me playing. And I'm really intrigued by that endless mode. I can't wait to see how they do that. Now we can also likely expect a new patch alongside this. We're probably going to get a lot of balancing updates, and I'll be sure to do a full breakdown of those whenever that drops too. But yeah, what do you guys think about Deep of Night? Are you a PC player? Have you already been playing it? If you have, give us some tips and tricks down below. Now, if you kept up with the leaks, this might be kind of old news, but now that we got the official announcement, we needed to take a deep dive into this and break it down for everybody else. But with all that though, if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to leave a like on it and subscribe if you're new around here, and I will catch you in the next one.